Hello and welcome to a new episode of Codepals. Today I'm going to talk with you about following topics. So the structure will be that I first explain you what I did in the last 2 weeks, then what I actually planned to do when it comes to the cookie authentication. Then I will give you an overview of my technology stack. And last but not least, I will tell you why I decided for a better approach to authenticate users. So first topic, what did I do in the last 2 weeks? First of all, maybe you just noticed when I was recording the intro, I tried out to have a little memo for myself that I can follow along and at the same time show you what you can do with code. Unfortunately, it did not work so well. You saw that the resizing of the video did not follow my small implementation of it's kind of like a green screen. So maybe I will try out the next time to come up with a different approach. However, let's talk about technology. What I also did in the last 2 weeks, I promised you I would work on the authentication of my skill trees. So you can actually go to codepals.com, but you cannot really save the tree in a matter that no one else is able to edit it. And this is called authentication. And I tried to solve this in various ways. And this brings me to the next point. What was my first approach to handle this? So, and you can see I was also seeing a hairdresser, which is actually my grandmother. Let's have a look now at the technology stack. I'm trying to explain this by using PlantUML. This is a tool that you can use to explain things with code. First of all, I will create a sequence diagram to explain what I did for solving the cookies. And actually there is a client, which is the browser in most cases. There's a backend, that's the server that I have to serve the files, but also to do some interactions with the database. And normally what happens is that if you visit the website, then your browser will fetch from the backend index HTML, and then the backend will just serve you the file. And in the beginning there is no cookie. So then what comes next is that the user is creating a skill tree, and when he does this, or she, then actually what will happen is that the backend will just transport all the data into the database. What now would be the kind of authentication method is that there is some kind of unique ID that is written into the database, and then the database will store your skills. It will create an ID for identifying your skills, but this unique ID that we created before is our small, I call it here a cookie secret. The user will get the result over the backend, and then you can see here that inside of the result there is a header information that the secret is ABC. And what will happen then is that in the client, this secret will be stored. So the next time when the user is coming back to my site and requests the skill tree, then the browser will still have the secret, here in this case ABC, stored and will send it to the backend with every request. And when the backend is then searching for the skill tree, it will transport the secret into the database query. And so we are able to verify whether the secret was correct or not. And based on this, the user will be able to modify the skill tree, yes or no. So even if you have a secret which is not matching the database secret, this would just mean that this skill tree does not belong to you, but you can still see it. This comes with some downsides, and the biggest downside actually for the user is right now that he or she has to use the same device all the time. So if you create your skill tree in Firefox or Chrome or wherever, you cannot use a different browser, and you cannot use your mobile phone if you created the skill tree on a desktop PC or Mac. What else? Another big disadvantage is that once I implement a really good mechanism for authentication, for example, Facebook's social auth mechanism or Google, or Apple, then I have to think about how I can migrate this. And actually I have no access to the client's browser, so actually this information is more or less lost. I cannot really do anything with it, and this is why I decided against this approach. So, and before I show you how I implemented the better way of authentication, I will show you first how my whole technology stack is looking like. And I will introduce another way of using PlantUML. This time I will not create a sequence diagram. I will do like a freestyle kind of diagram with different types of visualization methods. So let's have a look at the visualization that I created with PlantUML here. You can see the code on the left is now a bit complicated. I will share this code with you on a GitHub gist that I will put into the description. And what first happens if you as a visitor visit codepals.com, you have a domain name server that will resolve your request to the right IP. So for this I'm using right now namecheap.com. Then you get more or less connected with my Linux virtual machine. And inside of this Linux virtual machine, I use Docker and Docker Compose to prepare everything for the production environment. The cool thing with this technology is that if you are developing on your laptop as a developer, then you can create small virtual machines called containers. That's what I show here. So all of these blocks is a container. And when you are done testing it on your laptop, then you can upload this container image to a central repository, for example, Docker Hub. And then your production environment can just copy those virtual machines into this big virtual machine. So actually it's like a embedded VM in a VM. And in there I have a traffic container. So traffic is a load balancer. So this means that if we finally get our request from the visitor, of course first resolved, but finally it lands at a kind of endpoint, then the load balancer will make sure to route this request where it should go. So in most of the cases, it will be directly forwarded to the front end, which I have developed in Svelte. And there's a tool called SvelteKit. And in the end, this will provide a front end and also a back end, which runs under Node.js. And this backend will then connect to another backend, which is based on Python. And Fast API is providing us a very easy way to create a REST API with the HTTP verbs that are quite common. And you have a really good documentation. I think it's really beginner friendly. And it lets you connect then over a third-party library to MongoDB. If you post, for example, a new skill into the skill tree, then you go this route more or less. So you connect via HTTPS. So we have a secure connection that traffic will more or less handle automatically. So I don't have to care about the certificates at all. Then you get connected to the front end. The front end has an abstraction layer, which is here, which I call also like a back end. And it will route your request to add a new skill into the database. And if you are an admin, then you also have the option to go to a special page which will direct you to Mongo Express. If you are familiar with PHP and MySQL, there's a tool called PHPMyAdmin. So Mongo Express is something similar. And that's right now my technology stack. And this brings me now back to the authentication topic. For me, it was not so easy to just implement authentication directly into this big picture. And so I started a small side project to really try out first how the authentication can work in a distributed environment where I have like multiple Docker containers and so on. And this demo I will show you now. As a small project, I've decided to implement my own guestbook. You can see it's quite simple. You can type here some text. Thanks to everyone that shows up here. What I can do is first I log in via, here in my case, LinkedIn. Keine Ahnung, das Ding hier, so eine Kröte. Hello world. This is a test for YouTube. And then I have the result visible here to everyone. So it's very simple, but you can see it's a way of authorizing other people to post an entry. And it's more or less sure that it's not a bot. It's probably not a scammer, because I think LinkedIn is quite good in preventing scammers. I don't know how they do it, but for me, it seems like it's the best platform so far in this regard. And the cool thing is I don't have to care about all this. So what happens in future is that if you create your skill tree, before you will save it, you will log in. And then you are the only one who's able to edit it. That simple. Let's talk about the technology aspect of it. I told you before that I used Fast API for Codepals.com as my back-end Python framework. In this example that I just showed you with the guestbook, I tried out a complete new approach. I made the back-end with Node.js. So it's a similar technology like I was using for the front end. And the big benefit of Node.js is that you can use this Passport.js JavaScript framework. It offers you a lot of so-called strategies for signing up with Facebook, signing up with GitHub, and so on. So this is what I used. And finally, I also found out that Node.js is quite powerful when it comes to backend development. As a consequence, probably I will replace Fast API in my Codepals.com project. In order to implement all the stuff, I found a tutorial on Aspecto.io. Here it is, Microservices Authentication Strategy. I will put this into the description of my video. It explains a bit the whole concept. I did not want to also now explain it because the video is already 13 minutes long, and I think they really wrote a really nice article here. So if you want to implement it, follow them. So if you want to implement it on your own, this is really a step-by-step tutorial that you can try out. This was the longest vlog episode so far. if you are still here, thanks. And I would really appreciate if, in case you like this channel, give me a like and subscribe. And the next time I will provide you a full tutorial on how to get started with Docker. See you next time. Bye bye.